Right, so today I want to speak about the school system, and another word for that is the meritocracy. So I'm going to be using those two words interchangeably when I do speak about the school system slash the meritocracy. So the first thing that I want to do is define what is the point of the school system. What is the point of it? So the main reason is that the good students graduate and that the good students get the best jobs. It is and is done by exams. However, they might be sometimes it's done by coursework. Um, but the main thing is that it's done by exams. A bunch of students in a school all competing against each other to try to get the best grades. Um, so I do want to move on to a point, a bit about university, about the admission system for your university. Why is it that when we go into secondary school, all we have to do is apply for ones that are in our local borough or in our locality, slash high school. But when you get to university, you have to go through a very rigorous and complicated admission system. I know in America it's a lot more trickier than the UK and and Europe. But one point that I want to make to you is that first of all, America is nothing is decided just by grades. They are decided by recommendation letters. And there's a lot of extracurricular activities which are involved. Now, that's not just America. Even reflecting that in Europe and in the UK, where I live, you have to write a personal statement. A personal statement is basically why are you passionate about this subject that you're picking? What makes it important to you? And it's also a reflection of your character. So the point that I'm trying to make is that university in the beginning, it was about grades, but now it's kind of devolved into what is your character. And the issue with that is that it gives another layer of how the universities can just reject you. Because let's say you get the correct grades, if you get an A, then what gives the right for the university to reject you? They can't, but they might want to reject you on your personal statement. So I think this adds another layer of secrecy and discretion. You can really just get rejected just because they don't want you, and adding that personal statement layer, it gives them that right to just reject you. And it also makes them hit their targets. Maybe they want to hit their diversity targets, their inclusion targets. So it gives them the opportunity to take away people and remove people, and bring the people that they want to bring in, such as the rich people, because they know that they're going to be contributing well to the university, etc., etc. But what I do want to say is that school was initially a completely different system. It wasn't really a meritocratic system. I don't know if that's a word, but it wasn't this system that we know it today. Before, it used to be that school was initially for poor people to develop skills, and to develop trade skills like being a carpenter, plumber, etc., etc. It was more skills based. But nowadays, we see that university has really turned into a social club, and it's turned into a place where people discover themselves. When the complete initial point of university was to learn and to develop your skills, to go into the workforce, and university has completely gone off the rails with that. It's really just a social club in nowadays. Back in the day, there used to be specific research universities, but as we said, because the universities have taken a holistic approach, and they want not just the smartest people, but they want the people who are going to succeed. What do I mean by succeed? I mean the people who are going to make the most money. Why? Because when people make the most money, then Harvard or university can say this person went to our university, so they can claim him. And it's very similar to how high schools work and secondary schools. They want you to go to a good university because it reflects good on them. The next point that I want to say is that these universities, to fit their agenda, they might take a risk on certain people. What that basically means is that me personally, I grew up in more of a deprived, a poverty-driven area. I used that to my advantage to get into the university that I wanted to get into at the time. I don't know if it helped, due to the secrecy and the discretion, but at the same time, it's something that they might look at, and people use whatever advantages or disadvantages they have to get into that university, not knowing that the university is really just trying to hit its criteria and hit its target. So yeah, they do take a risk on certain people because they just want people who have gone through trauma. What I mean by that is that when people go through trauma, it kind of develops them in a way that they become ambitious, especially as son of an immigrant. And if you are an immigrant, you want to come to this country and you want to do well and you want to succeed and become the best. So they know that if they get an immigrant, they know that he's very likely going to abide by the system, and he's going to do well. However, that means in an extracurricular sense, he's not going to do as well. But sometimes they do need smart people to fit their agenda, like I said. One thing that I do want to speak about a little bit more is the idea of trauma. I think trauma, it builds up a student very well. I'll give an example. So some children, they get neglected, and they get demanded at the same time. What I mean by that is that, let's say your parent says, if you don't do well in this test, we're not going to go here, or if you do well in this test, we're going to go here. This kind of neglects the child. At the same time, it demands something from the child, and this is what causes dissociative personality disorder. This is something that's actually affected me personally. It's something that I don't think I've developed due to the meritocracy, but due to a corporate environment. Because I'm doing the same thing day in, day out, it doesn't feel like I'm making any progress. It doesn't feel like I'm making a dent in any system. It doesn't feel like, even though I am helping people in my job, it doesn't feel like I'm doing the best due to the bureaucracy, and that basically means due to all the rules that and the policy that I have to follow. And this is another flaw of the meritocracy and the bureaucracy. So coming back to the idea of the school system, these are some flaws in the school system and how it was built. Now, as a Muslim, how do we actually combat that? So, as a Muslim, the first thing that I would say is the easiest thing to say is you need to homeschool your children. Of course, that's never going to be 100%, but even stepping away from that, you can still teach your children. It's your duty as a parent to teach your children about Islam and to teach them everything that the school doesn't teach them. So this is something really important that as parents we're going to have to do. And when I become a parent, I'll try my best to teach my child about the school system and its effects on people. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be like Aaron's dad from Attack on Titan and do what he done to Zeke and make him traumatized, because you can't be extreme when it comes to children. You have to be very soft, and so soft parenting is the best way to teach them. And of course, if you have the funds, then you want to send your child to an Islamic school, because you're not going to be there 24 hours of the day, and you want them to be in a good environment surrounded by Muslims, because of course the environment has an effect on children the most, not just at home, but the school has, I mean, they take your child for about 8 hours a day, so it's a huge impact on them. Coming back to the idea of meritocracy, this is not just something that the Muslim should think about, and how do we actually combat that? As a Muslim, as a non-Muslim, the way that you combat that is through learning a skill, because this is what universities were originally for learning skills, and then it was for research universities. Of course, if you want to do R&D, research and development, you can always go to university to get that. I think this doesn't apply to things like medicine and law, because these are things that you have to go to a university for. But for the things that you don't have to go to university for, I don't think it's fair to go to university and spend that money. I don't think there's a need. Of course, it all depends on your intention and what you're going there for. If you're going there to just socialize, then albeit by all means you can go, but that was never the initial point of a university. So yeah, these are a few flaws with the school system and how to combat it as a Muslim. So yeah, it's up to us, because we are the next generation.